Well, welcome to question 128 of the Secunda Secundae. The topic for this lecture is fortitude, the parts of fortitude, and I am Dr. Thibault. Okay, so the parts of fortitude now, to cover in this slide here. We will get into the parts, which are described here as magnanimity, magnificence, patience, and perseverance. But as you'll see, it'll break down even further than that. So this is only one article long. It's this kind of introductory question, which leads into the breakdown of them into further detail. So I'll only go into so much detail here in order not to repeat myself in the future ones. So the parts of fortitude, there are typically the integral parts, the quasi-integral parts. There's the potential parts, and there's usually the subjective parts. This is what we see within the cardinal virtues. St. Thomas here points out right at the start that there are no subjective parts of fortitude. Fortitude is without subjective parts. So we are only going to be looking at the integral and the potential parts as a result. But unlike the other cardinal virtues, St. Thomas here doesn't specify. Normally he says the following are the integral virtues, right? The integral parts. And the following are the potential parts. And they have their own section. It's very clearly written out. This one, as you'll notice, he doesn't say it outright. He just says there are no subjective parts, which then, as a result, you have to assume there are integral parts and potential parts then, and then you have to figure out which ones they are. I think it's fairly straightforward which ones they are, although this isn't something he has specifically said, so it's quite possible that I got it wrong, but I don't think so. So in terms of the integral parts, like if you think back to justice, for example, it's doing good and avoiding evil. Usually these are very short things, the integral parts. What's integral to justice? Not harming others unduly and avoiding and doing good, right? That's integral to justice. So what is integral to fortitude? Well, aggression and endurance. So I think that he doesn't say it, but I think that's very straightforward. That what he's talking about is aggression and endurance as integral parts of fortitude. Now, just like doing good and avoiding evil can then be broken down into further parts, so can fortitude. So within that, we have four other subcategories, and there's really even a fifth one that doesn't fit into any of the previous four. So I guess we can get into that. So in terms of aggression, aggression is acting for good and noble purpose despite fear and danger of death. Now we typically think of, in our common parlance, when we think about aggression, we think of somebody in a negative way, right? If a kid is being aggressive, right, they need to take a time out. This is different than that. This is putting into it's acting in a good and noble for a good and noble purpose. It's having some level of courage, right? Fortitude itself is this idea of courage. So it's this action, right? It's not just courage in an abstract way. It's courage in action, right? There's a vigor about it, right? An aggressive kid is one who is, struggling and they're fighting and they're not going to give up. Right? Try to restrain an aggressive kid and they're kicking and punching, trying to get free. Right? This is in a positive way. So when somebody's trying to keep you down from doing the good and noble thing, you keep fighting. Right? It's kind of think of an entrepreneur. They keep losing and they keep losing, yet they keep they keep struggling, right? They keep fighting for it. This aggression, right? Being a little bit wily, as an example, being wily, right? Not easy to be uh, tied down because you have a vigor about you, right? So this is an integral part of fortitude. Uh, Now, I guess I can jump ahead to endurance, but it's kind of hard because we have the potential parts underneath. But endurance is on the passive side um, of fortitude because you are enduring things. It is it's not that you are being aggressive; it's that as the waves are hitting you, stand firm, right? If you that image of being on a beach and the waves coming in, as you're being battered down, stand like a rock, right? So in that sense, it's the passive side. As things are, as the emotions are happening to you, as the world is happening to you, um, you stand immovable, right, in the midst of dangers without attacking. This is not attacking back. This is not aggressive where you're attacking. This is holding firm. So integral parts of being having courage, right? Courage in this sense, you have to be able to fight and endure are the two important parts, integral parts. Now, when we look at the potential parts here, um, uh, now this first one can go by different names. Uh, St. Thomas starts it by defining it, and then we kind of look for the words afterwards, and people can label it differently. So the preparation of the mind. The mind is much assured and firmly hopeful in great and honorable undertaking. So it's the mind first, right? The intellect in some sense first, um, aiming towards something. Right? You can't. It's not just about uh, well wishing, but it does still have to first come from an act of the intellect, right? You don't get up to go to the kitchen to get something to eat without first thinking, I need to get up to the kitchen to get something to eat. You have to have uh, uh, an act of the mind, right? An act of the intellect first, then an act of the will, right, to act. And sometimes people could look at this as hopeful, right? Hopeful is one of those terms you could use to describe this part, the ability to be hopeful. The other one is confidence, right? Some people call it confidence. Um, this clarity of mind, this claritas, that you are going to do this thing, right? You have first to get it in your mind. Now, if it's with all these potential parts of fortitude, if they are aimed at fortitude, they become a part of fortitude, right? A sub virtue of fortitude. If somebody just has a resolute state of mind and it's to do something um, that's not aligned with fortitude, then they are a separate virtue, uh, a secondary virtue that's not uh, uh, it can be not connected, right? You can see this later on, maybe more with patience and endurance. But a person could be patient for things that have nothing to do with fortitude. So these are in particular. Um, you have to keep in mind that they are not always aligned with fortitude, but to the degree that these are aligned with fortitude, they are potential parts of fortitude. And that's often true of any type of potential part, right? Potential parts give strength, they strengthen the virtue. Uh, not potential as in maybe, maybe potentially I'll go to the mall tomorrow. Maybe I'll go to the mall tomorrow. Potential meaning potent, right? That's strong. Drink a natural ginger ale is potent, right? It's strong, right? It's strong. So that this is the same type of thing with potential. Um, potential parts, which are virtues. They strengthen fortitude, but only to the degree that they are aiming at the final end that fortitude is aiming for, right? If we think back to what is the purpose of fortitude, it is to endure and fight off the irascible appetites to the final end, right? To beatitude, having that strength in the face of danger and death to the end, to that end goal, the end good. Um, so if one is hopeful but for winning the lottery, hopeful is fine in one way, but it's not a potential part of fortitude unless it's aiming for what fortitude is, hopeful for what fortitude is aiming for. Another one is accomplishment of deed, which is magnificence. This is defined as a great and lofty undertaking with a certain broad and noble purpose of mind. So uh, this is sometimes pointed out, and when we get into the section on its own, we'll get into it more, but it often is related to money. Um, so magnificence would be often somebody who could fund something, right? Give your energy to it, your resources behind it. Um, so something with a broad and noble purpose in mind, right? So if somebody is trying to build a school or an orphanage, uh, that you would put your money, your resources behind this great and lofty undertaking. It has a certain broad and noble purpose of mind, right? You're thinking beyond yourself to the good of the common good. Therefore, magnificence is one who puts that energy behind, particularly money, behind something of great, lofty undertaking. Think to some of those great Baroque, Rococo churches in Europe, Gothic, Romanesque churches of Europe, those magnificent churches, right? We would say magnificent churches, right? When you walk, magnificent. Well, magnificence, right? They were lofty and noble undertakings. Um, the St. Nicholas Church in Prague comes to mind. Um, as you walk in, and it's just, statues are enormous. The emotion within that they got into stonework. Perhaps you go to St. Peter's Basilica in Rome, or many of the churches of Rome. You walk in, and it's just magnificent, right? That's the term we use. Well, magnificence. It came from a lofty undertaking. You walked in, and there was a tabernacle there, but it's just essentially a cement box, no windows in it. You don't walk into that church and go, "Oh, this is magnificent." It's kind of like, "Well, the Lord's here." That's good enough for me to pray, but the architecture is not magnificent. It is underwhelming. So it was not a lofty undertaking. So this is dreaming something big, right? Somebody who has magnificence is dreaming big and putting their resources behind it. So these are acts of aggression, right? They are moving forward, right? Being hopeful with confidence in an honorable undertaking is putting money and resources behind lofty ideals, right? This is all aiming at that final end and not giving up. Not right. This is ultimately a fighting against the irascible appetites. So you're not giving up when it gets tough, right? Uh, all of these amazing places, if people gave up the first time it got a little bit difficult, it would never have been built. You know, this comes with blood, sweat, and tears, setbacks, and you just keep persevering until it's right. Michelangelo's ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. That was not an easy undertaking. It was plenty of irascible appetites there saying, give up, just give up, give something mediocre. And he couldn't, right? He had to give something magnificent, something beyond what other people could have seen. Now, when we look at endurance, which we've already defined as the integral part, the potential parts here, the subcategories of the integral part would be patience and perseverance. So patience is a voluntary and prolonged endurance, arduous and difficult things for the sake of virtue, right? So again, it's kind of an immovableness. Um, uh, Once the irascible appetites come up and tell you, just quit, just give up. Patience endures. It just keeps enduring, right? Nobody would ever develop virtue if they didn't have patience. Patience is really a necessary key to developing virtue. Because if you only have the virtue when it's easy, then you really don't have that virtue. The only time you really see virtue is when it perseveres, right? As you go through patience, brings us to perseverance. Uh, it's fixed and continuous, persistent, in a well-considered purpose, right? So, and it's very similar to patience, but it's continued persistence, right? Uh, even when it's difficult, you stand firm. Be an interesting the discussion really the difference between patience and perseverance. I think perhaps patience is more of an uh, internal element. Being patient is something within self, right? As things are frustrating, you just take a deep breath, right? You're having patience. So that's a bit of the internal disposition versus perseverance, which I think is perhaps more of the external, a little bit more. Um, right? If you're trying to get your work done and you don't give up, it's kind of an external thing, not giving up, versus patience, which is more of an internal thing. You might have burned through your patience a long time ago, but your perseverance has kept you going, right? Perhaps. Um, or maybe you have patience, but you just haven't tried enough, so you lack perseverance. So they really, I guess, would go together. Um, Again, I'm not an expert particularly on defining the differences between the two, so I think that's a good point for discussion as well. And then finally, there's difficult for me to say magnanimity, which is brought up in the response to objection 6. So it's kind of brought up a little bit late in the game in this section, and it points out that it is neither aggression or endurance. It's really a little bit of both. So it doesn't fit under either of those two categories, although it is a part of fortitude, which you'll see. It has its own questions and opposing vices. So we'll go into magnanimity as much as the others. So, but it doesn't fit in those two categories. But it's the magnitude of things hoped for. It supports well the emotions, the excitement, and the momentum. So this is having that energy, and the mindset uh, to really do something great. Uh, it's dreaming big, right? This is uh, where magnificence really was about putting your money behind something, right? Putting your money behind something great. Magnanimity is about dreaming big. Right? It's dreaming to build St. Peter's Basilica the first time, right? That took magnanimity, a magnitude of vision, right? A great vision, and then magnificence was needed to get there. Right? So the saints often are abundant in things like magnanimity, dream big. Right? Any founder of a religious community, in some ways, has dreamed big. It's like the church is lacking in this way. Well, I'm going to gather groups of priests and brothers and sisters and lay people together, and we're going to fight this issue of uh, poverty or lack of education for rural people or taking care of orphans. There are people who didn't just say, "Oh, I'm just going to sit in my chair and pray my rosary and enjoy a quiet corner of heaven. That's not how they did it. They saw a need and they said, I, well, if nobody else is going to do anything about it, I'm going to do something about it. Right? It's responding to the call of the gospel. The Carthusians, they have a wonderful way of looking at this. I think sometimes outside of the Charter House can get kind of confused of, well, what does the Lord want me to do? What does the Lord want? Um, well, Carthusians are very simple about that. Well, what does the Lord want? Well, He already told you. It's in the four Gospels, so that's what you're supposed to do. Um, well, how do I know it's true? Well, because Christ came. So Christ came. He gave us the Gospels. Now you know what you're supposed to do. So just do it. Um, and what did he ask? He asked big things. Right? It's easier for a rich man to fit through the eye of a needle than it is for a camel to fit through an eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter into heaven. Give all you have to the poor and come follow me. It is better to be uh, single, make yourself eunuchs for the sake of the kingdom. Um, like there's big visions, right? Go out to all the places of the earth, baptizing in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, forgive sins, cast out demons, right? Big dreams, big images. This is all magnanimity. So it is both it's an aggression, but it is also an endurance. It's both. It's trying to bring uh, the emotions on board, right? That's kind of how you get there. You bring the excitement and the emotions on board to doing it. So the emotions then are in light of reason. So reason calls us to do it, and the emotions follow. This is magnanimity. So the question was to start with the parts of fortitude. Are the parts of fortitude suitably assigned? Well, yes. That's the answer. And now I could go into say more about this, but we will get into everything I just talked about all again in individual questions and their correlating vices. So that's all we will do for this question 128.